We are Cactus Wrestling. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.
If you're a fan of NCAA wrestling, then you know that the postseason wrestling is absolutely crazy. They say March Madness. We say March Madness because the NCAA wrestling tournament is always full of upsets, always full of Cinderella stories, things that you don't see coming. And today we're going to highlight a couple of examples of guys that squared off in the conference tournament and then squared off again in NCAAs and see how they fared when they rematched. The results are going to surprise you.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like it kind of comes down to almost like peaking at the right time. Would you rather be a conference champion or would you rather be a national champion? Type of thing. It seems like, and these are just some examples over the past 5 to 8 years, maybe at most 5, 7 years. But just to dive right in, you got Alex Marinelli of Iowa against Cam Amin of Michigan, who, they wrestled, I think, several times over their careers. But for this year, not this past year, but for the year that they matched up at both the conference and at NCAAs, Marinelli beat him in the conference finals 2-1. Then at the quarterfinals of NCAAs, everyone's thinking, Marinelli, he's going to finally pull it off. He's going to get out of the quarters. What happens? No. He gets upset and loses 3-1 in sudden victory. Amin gets to the national semis. It's something that happens, I think, every year or multiple times every year where guys will beat a guy at their conference tournament or they'll beat a guy when they wrestle the first time during the regular season. Then they come around to nationals, NCAA tournament, and things get very, very different.
Well, Alex Marinelli was always a guy that peaked at Big Tens.
Yeah. He's like a 2, 3, 4 time. No, I think he's a 4-time Big Ten champ.
And here's the thing.
Over Vincenzo Joseph is one of them too.
Right. And here's the thing, because when I was in college, okay, so after the conference tournament, you have 2 weeks until NCAA tournament. But some of these conference tournaments, depending on how well you place and the size of your conference, you have potentially 4 or 5 matches.
Yeah.
And these are high level matches. They're not just, every match is tough at the Division I level.
Yeah.
But that 2 week turnaround, it's almost like you're doing an NCAA tournament and then 2 weeks later another NCAA tournament. That's how the Big Ten's kind of is.
Yeah, because Big Ten's is Big Ten's every weight has multiple All-Americans in it. So
right.
Yeah.
So another example, Big Ten matchup, Michael Kemmerer versus Carter Starochi. Starochi's one of 2, 3 career college losses came to Michael Kemmerer.
Yep. And I believe this is his freshman year too.
And it was a 7-2 matchup. And then Starochi rematches him same year and beats Kemmerer 3-1 in overtime in the national finals.
No one was pegging that to happen, especially when Kemmerer beat him 7-2 2 weeks earlier. Like, you're not thinking Kemmerer is probably going to lose that, especially in the national finals.
It just goes to the adjustments that some schools make in such a short amount of time. Starochi gave up 7 points, and then 2 weeks later only gave up 1. Penn State is notorious for making adjustments between the first time you wrestle against an opponent and the second time. And then they widen that gap in their favor. And unfortunately, Iowa is notorious for being on the detrimental side of that, where they'll beat the guy the first time around, and then the rematch comes along and they're losing progress. So Another example of that, Jaden Ironman and Nick Lee.
Yep. Yep.
And that was
Absolutely.
Ironman at Iowa, right?
That's Ironman at Iowa when he beats Nick Lee 6-5 at Big Tens, and
And then
then doesn't go so well at NCAA finals. I mean, it's a close matchup, obviously, overtime loss 4-2, but like that's another Penn State guy making the adjustments and finding a way to win a national title 2 weeks later, whereas I was left with just the Big Ten title. I'm sure Nick Lee is a lot happier being a national champion than he is being a big, if he had been a Big Ten champion.
and
Um,
right, yeah, exactly. And I always say it's always so hard to beat the same guy over and
yeah,
over and over again because they want to make the adjustments. They want to keep gunning for you. They're gonna they're gonna eventually figure out whatever you have, and then once that moment comes, then you have to start making adjustments.
yeah,
So we saw that in this most recent season with David Carr
yeah,
and Keegan O'Toole, where Carr beats him in the dual meet, beats him at the conference tournament, and then at NCAA's gets beaten pretty handily.
yeah. No, it was in O'Toole's favor that whole match for that NCAA final. I mean, it's a pretty crazy turnaround because it was, he O'Toole went from losing 7-2, which is a pretty commanding loss. Then he made some adjustments by the time the conference Big 12 came around and lost in overtime where he got pinned. And then he 2 weeks later is dominant. Like,
8-2, eight
yeah,
two
that
win.
that's making all the right adjustments. Um, like which is great to see, like, a guy that clearly is peaking at the right time, and he made all the right made all the right changes that he needed to, that and Carr clearly didn't make any or enough
Well,
adjustments.
well,
um
well, a lot of people say that the wrestling season is too long because it's a grind. Because both you and I, we were Division 1
yep,
wrestlers, and for those of you who aren't or weren't, just a sneak behind the window. Preseason starts in August. You go from August to pretty much the regular season at the start of November.
yep,
Then you're in regular season from November until March.
yep,
You maybe get a month off before you start doing the freestyle circuit,
yeah, university nationals or whatever
university
they do.
nationals, and for the higher level guys like you worlds
Yeah,
and
US Open, World Team Trials and stuff. Yeah,
and so that goes until about June, and then you get June off before you come back and you do a month of summer training in July. And then once school starts at the end of August, you're back at preseason. So the wrestling season is a grind. It is a grind. And I know a lot of guys, they don't have as many matches nowadays. You look at all of these Penn State guys who have maybe 20, 25 matches in a season. But maybe that's the recipe for success because they are able to peak, like you were saying, they're able to peak at the right time at the
yeah,
postseason tournament.
yeah. Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, yeah, another match up of a guy that, like, they wrestled several times is Shane Griffith and Evan Wick. They wrestled three times before NCAAs. The first time was at Las Vegas. Wick wins 6-2. Then in the duel, Wick wins 6-1. Then at the conference tournament, Griffith finally figures some stuff out, but loses 8-7. So a little nerve wracking probably for Wick. And then at NCAAs, the most important matchup, Wick ends up losing 7-6 on a like last second takedown too. So, like, clearly Griffith peaking at the prime time moment. And the funny thing is, I think had Wick not lost to Griffith, he probably would have probably I think he would have been able to beat Keegan O'Toole. Like, I think Shane Griffith was probably the only guy that was going to beat Evan Wick that year. because he'd wrestled him so many times.
Yeah, he knew the matchup and he played to it in his advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I'd rather see these matchups in season, though. I mean, what about you? Like,
Yeah.
because I'm not a fan at all of guys ducking each other at the dual
Oh
meets
yeah, no,
like
like
that.
you see the big time like dual meet matchup, and you're like, oh yeah, X and Y are gonna wrestle, and then they go out there and it's two backups or it's one backup getting the floor mopped with by the star. So it's like that's underwhelming. Like
No, yeah, I want to see the top guys wrestling, especially since you have so few matches throughout the year. And okay, yeah, so what? You wrestle each other, but the best wrestlers are going to find a way,
yeah,
and they'll learn. And these guys who kind of learned and narrowed the gap or widened the gap in their favor, obviously they got rewarded for it with national titles and all American statuses and whatnot.
yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Clearly, like I mean, you peaking at the right time is critical. I mean, it comes down even in the high school. Like you want to peak at states or you want to peak at nationals. If you go down to like Virginia Beach, like it's a definitely key component. Like guys that peak too early are the ones that like they're like ranked really high and then they shit the bed at the states or whatever. So it's an important aspect that I feel like some coaches overlook or don't realize that they're grinding their guys into the ground and like yeah they may have put together a phenomenal season but they're not going to cap it off with a phenomenal finish.
No, and I know a teammate of mine who transferred out of Oklahoma State. He said that John Smith, they practiced at Oklahoma State every single day. They never had an off day. I don't know what those practices looked like, but they never had an off day. They wrestled every single day.
You
I don't
mean
know,
7 days a week?
7 days a week. Yeah. They never had a day off. Maybe he was exaggerating. Maybe there's an Oklahoma State person that can confirm this theory. I don't know if they still do it, but if
Right.
that's true, they haven't really had much success since AJ Ferrari or Alex Derringer at the national tournament.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Dayton Fix, but he
Well,
hasn't
Dayton
won.
Fix hasn't won a title. Those two guys did.
Yeah. Whereas Penn State, my head coach was a former Penn State assistant, and he was a big advocate of work smarter, not harder. He gave
Yeah.
us Wednesdays off. We had every Wednesday off. So
Right, right. Well, yeah, and then that's kind of like the brands. They're like the Iowa style. They try to grind you into the ground, but I mean, their guys always fall flat at the nationals. Like a lot of the big upsets most recently are all Iowa guys getting upset. You Kemmer getting upset, Ironman getting upset, like arguably Real Woods getting upset, like
Spencer Lee, he beat Matt
Spencer Lee
Ramos.
getting
He beat
upset.
Matt
Yeah,
Ramos at what, Big Tens, right? Or no, at the duel.
it was at the duel. He
Well,
was
still,
losing 8-2 and then he pinned him, and then at NCAAs he got pinned.
I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, it's crazy. This postseason wrestling, it's wild. It is absolutely wild.
It's a different. I mean, that's like Miles Martin and Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel beat him 3 times before getting to the national finals. You never in your life think Miles Martin stands a chance, and then he wins 11-9. I mean, it's the only win he ever gets over Bo Nickel, but still, like he's a
No,
national champ because of it.
he beat him one more time, I think, at Big Tens at 184, maybe.
Uh,
Maybe.
oh, maybe I didn't think so, but maybe he did. Um,
But still, it's so mentally draining knowing that you're up against an opponent that you've lost to 3 times. Well, there's two sides of the coin. It's
yeah,
either, oh, this guy, like I can't crack it. I can't beat this guy. Or it's like, all right, I got this guy. I
yeah,
know I'm gonna beat him this time. I got it. It's either
yeah.
one of those, and it's all the mindset.
Well, and then also it's like, oh, I beat this guy so many times already. Come on, I can beat him again. I got this. And then you overlook him, and then that's why you end up losing.
Or it's like, oh, I've beat him 3 times, but that last one was close, and I don't know if I can do this a fourth time
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a
I
row.
mean, Jared Hout Machiavello was tiebreaker too. So I'm sure going into the national finals, he was like, crap. Of anybody it could have been, why did I got to be Mock?
Yeah, and that's crazy because that's an ACC. That's a 6 school conference, and you're seeing each other in the conference final and the
Yeah,
national
no, you
final.
don't find that often where the ACC finals is the national finals.
Right.
Like Big Tens, you got a lot more guys that a lot more high level teams than guys that it's more likely to match up. But yeah, ACC, it's not often that's where you see those two guys in the finals against one another.
What do you guys think? Drop a comment down below. What are some examples of some matches that you've seen go flipping, flopping, getting crazy? And what do you think are some of the key factors? We kind of talked a bit about mentality, peaking at the right time, but what do you think is the reason for these matchups uh, going different ways in such a short turnaround? Drop a comment down below and let us know.
Thanks for watching. We are Cactus Wrestling, and we'll see you next time on our next video.